Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is still playing out the short-term bearish divergence, which is a warning signal, but we're still seeing massive liquidity building above the price of Bitcoin, and on top of that, we're now seeing the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates flipping negative, which is something we need to pay attention to. So in just a moment, I'll be talking about my exact Bitcoin trading strategy alongside Ethereum now retesting and starting to struggle at this important area on the price chart, while the price of XRP is also now rejecting from this key area of resistance. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the weekly Bitcoin price chart, and the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. But on this weekly Bitcoin price chart, we still have a massive bearish divergence to watch out for, which we cannot ignore. This is still influencing the price, basically causing a bit of a cool off or a pause in the larger bull market. And obviously, I've been saying that every day over the last couple of months, since basically around July to August, and it has been perfectly playing out since then as predicted. But if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart, as I've been saying more recently over the last 2 weeks or so, obviously we're starting to gain a small amount of bullish momentum, moving closer towards a potential bullish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD. And so if this continues at the current trajectory, potentially in a few days from now, maybe within the next 1 week or so, we could end up seeing a bullish crossover in this indicator. And if of course we see that signal confirm in this indicator on this time frame, based on the last couple of times it confirmed, we did see some more bullish price action, at least in the short term, follow that bullish signal. But once again, at least for now, it's not yet actually confirmed. But if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, obviously the price has been in somewhat of a short-term bullish trend, at least until right now. Now, technically, we can still remain within the bullish trend, but we are running into this significant resistance, currently causing the price to struggle at this level. And of course, that's still sitting at approximately 117,000. And now, if the price of Bitcoin can ultimately confirm a breakout above 117,000 with confirmation, so for example a daily candle close confirming above that level and actually holding that as new support, in that situation the next major target, next major point of resistance to watch out for based on these highs is sitting at around 120,000, and above that level I'll be targeting basically the all-time high closer towards 124,000. But once again, the immediate resistance to watch out for is still sitting at give or take 117,000. And as for short-term support, I'll be paying attention to around 114.5k, and if we break below that level, the next major area of support to the downside is sitting in between around 113,000 to 113.5k, and we have more support at just above 110,000 and also in between 106.7k to 107.6k. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term, looking at the 4-hour time frame, technically speaking, this short-term bearish divergence is still currently active. And so obviously I've been talking about a short-term bearish divergence over the last couple of days. First of all, 2 days ago now, I talked about the risk of this bearish divergence potentially reconfirming with a new higher high in the price and yet another lower high confirming in the RSI. And then of course in my last video, I said this is already now technically confirmed, starting to play out, which means yes, we could see slight little bounces and things like that, but overall expect a lack in bullish momentum and a bit of weakness, maybe just for a couple of days here in the short term for the price of Bitcoin. And now it's important to mention that a bearish divergence, just like the opposite of a bullish divergence, does not always result in a trend reversal. For example, this bearish divergence right here resulted in just a short-term pullback and then ultimately the continuation of the bullish trend later on, kind of like this previous bullish divergence did result in a bullish move, a bit of a bullish relief for a few days, but ultimately we did see a continuation of that previous bearish trend later on. And so obviously sometimes they can occur at the reversal points of the trend, but not all the time. So we can't rely on this by itself to determine that the bullish trend is now completely over. And so in order to determine that, I'll be watching out for possible bearish price structure starting to form in order to start looking at potentially a new bearish trend. So for example, if at least we break below around 114.5k with confirmation, and especially if we fail to get back above that area, and especially if we form some sort of lower high like this in the process, in that situation, that would be bearish price structure, pointing towards an end of this short-term bullish trend and possibly a new short-term bearish trend that could last a period of weeks. But obviously, for now, we've not yet confirmed any of that bearish price structure. We're still holding above these previous lows, at least as of recording this video. So despite this bearish divergence technically still playing out, it's possible we can remain within the bullish trend. So maybe this is just a bit of a cool off like this before ultimately we see a continuation higher later on. But remember, at roughly 117,000 give or take, and even slightly above 117,000, we have a lot of resistance around this area on the price chart. So we need to, of course, confirm a breakout and then ideally hold above that level, hold it as new support in order to actually further confirm the breakout, setting up the next target at around 120,000. And what's very interesting is while this short-term bearish divergence is technically still playing out, at least for now, if we're looking at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we still have massive liquidity building just above the price of Bitcoin at around 118,000 to 119,000 approximately. So right around here, we still have a lot of liquidity for the price of Bitcoin. And in case you're new to all of this, usually the price of Bitcoin tends to move towards where we have a lot of liquidity to wipe out that liquidity. Now, of course, that's not a 100% guarantee. It doesn't always happen, but a lot of the time, most of the time, it does happen. So keep that in mind. That is still a potential price target to watch out for, maybe after a couple of days, after we first of all play out this bearish divergence for maybe a little longer. And another potential bullish signal to watch out for is, of course, the Bitcoin and crypto funding rates, because right now a lot of these funding rates across a lot of different exchanges are currently flipping negative, which basically means there's currently a high demand to short these crypto assets that have negative funding rates, and not many people looking to long these crypto assets. And usually when we see that, especially when we see liquidity building above the price of Bitcoin while we're seeing negative funding rates, these are some of the key ingredients that can cause a short squeeze. Now, once again, there's never a 100% guarantee, but usually when we see a short squeeze, we see these sort of things happen just before the short squeeze: negative funding rates and liquidity building above the price. And so basically, when the funding rates are negative, what that essentially means, in case you're new to all of this, is the short positions are now having to pay funding fees to the long positions when the funding rates are negative. And so in other words, usually every 8 hours, these funding rates are actually charged on the total position size of the short positions. If the funding rates are negative, once again, the short positions are paying this rate every 8 hours, and those funding fees are actually getting paid to the long positions. So the long positions are actually earning fees right now when the funding rates are negative. And so what this does is financially incentivize people to close short positions or open long positions, and that process adds buying pressure to the price of Bitcoin or whatever asset we're trading here. So for example, if you close a short position, you have to buy back into the underlying asset. So for example, if you're shorting Bitcoin, in order to close a short, essentially that's a buy order, or if you're opening a long, that's also a buy order. And so this could potentially cause a bit of a short squeeze, which essentially pushes the price towards the upside, forcing some short positions to close, which adds more buying pressure, forcing more short positions to close, and so on, wiping out a lot of that liquidity above the price. So once again, that is a possibility in the coming days here, maybe after we first play out this bearish divergence for a little longer. But remember, it's not a 100% guarantee, but basically the further the negative the funding rates go, the more likely a short squeeze will potentially happen. So definitely keep an eye on those Bitcoin and crypto funding rates. And if we're taking a look at my Bitcoin trading strategy right now, I'm still currently long on the price of Bitcoin, considering at least as of right now, we're technically still within this bullish trend. We've not yet confirmed an end to the bullish trend. And so even though I have taken some decent profits out of specifically this Bitcoin long position on my BTNX account, due to the fact that we're running into previous points of resistance and of course flashing little warning signals along the way like bearish divergences. At each of these points, I do take a little bit of profits off the table out of the long position, just slightly reducing the size of the trade, but not closing the entire trade in case ultimately we continue the trend further towards the upside. And so basically over the last one day, my trading strategy has not changed. My position is still the same here over on my BTNX account. $50,000 Bitcoin long position still secured, the same amount of profits, not changed over the last one day. And of course, stop loss still sitting in some slight profits. And on my 2-bit account, it's the same thing, not changed over the last one day, still a $100,000 Bitcoin long position. unrealized profits of roughly 1,500 USDT. And my stop loss for this trade is also sitting in some slight profits, so that even in the worst case scenario, if the price just crashes for whatever reason, essentially that would automatically close the trade at that level where the stop loss is sitting at in some slight profits, even in the worst case scenario. And so effectively what I'm doing is limiting my downside while also leaving my upside open for more potential if the trend continues. And of course, if you want to take trades just like this for yourself to make a lot of profits in the crypto market, like what I'm doing, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking this trade right here over on my BTNX account. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim massive trading and deposit bonuses up to 120,000 USDT in prize pools here. And so for example, if you deposit as little as $100 on your BTNX account, but only if you use that link, you get a $20 bonus onto your account. Or if you deposit up to 1,000, you get a $200 bonus onto your BTNX account. So basically free money from the exchange just by trading crypto. And once again, up to 120,000 USDT prize pool, also just by trading crypto. So once again, if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, you might as well check this out. First link below this video to take advantage of major trading and deposit bonuses. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, like I said earlier, my other Bitcoin long position is currently over on my 2bit account. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bits below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can also claim some massive trading and deposit bonuses. For example, simply just by trading crypto using that link to 2bit, you get up to 10,000 USDT in trial fund bonuses and 8,000 USDT in actual withdrawable stable coins just by trading crypto using that link. And also simply without making any deposit, any trades, no KYC, you get a free $30 bonus and 1 month free VIP 3 upgrade on your account. So basically very cheap trading fees for your first entire month and essentially free money from the exchange just simply by making an account. It takes about 60 seconds to do this using that link below this video to 2bit. But if you don't use that link, you can't take advantage of any of these bonuses here. So you might as well do that. Once again, second link below this video to 2bit. And in case you're wondering, yes, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart here on the 3-day time frame, technically speaking, if we're talking about the larger price structure, we're still within the larger bearish movement here, the larger pullback. But obviously, as I've mentioned over the last few days or so, just in the immediate short term, we are seeing a bit of a short-term bullish divergence with some very slight higher lows in the RSI and some clear lower lows in the price in the candle closes. So like I've said recently, maybe this could result in maybe a sideways consolidation or a slight little bullish relief, but overall technically still within the larger bearish trend. And so in case you're new to all of this, that basically means just in the shorter term, maybe for a few days, maybe a week, that sort of time frame, we could likely see some altcoins underperform Bitcoin, but then ultimately if we just continue the trend later on in the bearish direction, that's great news for altcoins if the Bitcoin dominance is bearish. But just in the immediate short term, once again, we're actually looking relatively neutral, maybe playing out a bit of a bullish divergence, but so far lacking momentum to either direction just in the immediate short term for the next few days or so. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, it's a similar situation for Ethereum. We're still in the same sideways price range that I've been talking about for weeks, if not months now on the channel, sitting in between this support and this resistance. So first of all, this support is still sitting in between around 3.9k to 4.1k, and this area of resistance is still sitting in between around 4.8k to 4.9k. So right now Ethereum is still looking very neutral, kind of just lacking momentum to either direction, bouncing around in a sideways price range. And if we're zooming into the shorter term, taking a look at the 4-hour Ethereum price chart, as of recording this video, the price of ETH is now retesting this previous area of support, which was also previous resistance back here, and at least as of recording this video, in the immediate short term is now acting as a bit of short-term resistance, and that's sitting in between around 4470 to 4.5k. So especially around 4.5k right here, that is currently acting as at least some resistance in the short term. And it's actually very important for Ethereum to break out back above 4.5k and actually hold above this area as new support, because if we fail this potential breakout breakout here. And instead, if this is just simply a retest and then a rejection, confirming the break towards the downside, further confirming the break towards the downside, in that situation, the next significant area of support is all the way back down here in between around 42.50 to 42.80. So just below 4.3k is the next significant support, but I would also expect some short-term support around here based on these highs flipping into new support, sitting at approximately 43.70 to 43.80, so just below 4.4k. But remember, we're still currently in the test phase. This is the wait and see phase for the test right here. So we've not yet confirmed a breakout or confirmed a rejection. Once again, we're still testing this area. And so the next few moments, the next few hours, the next one day will be very important for Ethereum to determine what we could likely see over the next multiple days, if not over the next 1 or 2 weeks. And if Ethereum actually succeeds with a breakout back above 4.5k with candle closes above that level and holding above this area as support, in that situation, I'd expect at least a bullish move towards around 45.50, but most likely up towards these highs or close to these highs at just above 4.6k as a very likely price target. Once again, only if we first confirm an actual breakout above around 4.5k and hold above that area. But remember, as I've been saying for a while now on the channel, no matter what really happens in the short term, whether we see this rejection or ultimately a breakout, we're still in the larger sideways price range here on the 3-day time frame, bouncing around in simply just a massive sideways price range. And so not much has really changed for Ethereum over the last 1 day. So getting into Solana on the 2-day time frame, and right now Solana is technically still within the long-term bullish trend, larger bullish price structure, very clearly forming higher lows and higher highs on the 2-day Solana price chart. But as of recent, obviously, we have slowed down a little bit, along with the slight little slowdown with Bitcoin and Ethereum in the immediate short term. But the good news is that Solana is still holding above this crucial level right here, Fibonacci level, sitting at around $230. And currently that is acting as some short-term support. So still expect support at around $230. And below that level, if we were to break below $230 with confirmation, so candle closes below that level, in that situation, the next support will be sitting at around $215 approximately. But the next major resistance to watch out for, if we ultimately continue the bullish trend further towards the upside, is sitting at closer towards around $260, really in between 260 to 265, based on this previous high back here as the next major point of resistance to watch out for. And so once again, yes, we can see a little short-term cool-offs, but overall, we're still looking very bullish when it comes to the larger trend for the price of Solana. And if we're taking a look at the somewhat shorter term on the 12-hour time frame, of course, another reason as to why we're seeing a slight little cool off in the immediate short term, currently lacking a little bit of bullish momentum, at least just in the short term, is of course due to this bearish divergence technically still active. And of course, I talked about this in my last video, telling you that we've already confirmed a higher high in the price and a lower high in the 12-hour Solana RSI, telling us we're likely just going to see a little bit of a cool off here, maybe for another few days, maybe even up to a week. But that sort of time frame, just in the short term, expect a little bit of weakness in the immediate short term for Solana. But once again, after this passes, maybe in a week from now, for example, it's entirely possible we could continue the larger bullish trend. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, we also have a massive bearish divergence on this weekly XRP price chart, which has already been playing out, as I've been saying here on the channel every day since basically around July, since around $3.40 is when I started warning about this bearish divergence, telling you that over the next couple of months from July onwards, expect a larger cool off, lacking bullish momentum, showing a lot of weakness. And obviously since around July, since around 340 to 350, that's exactly what's been playing out as I warned about all the way back then. And so just keep this in mind, that's technically still active on the much larger time frames. But if we're taking a look at the somewhat shorter term here on the daily XRP price chart, we're currently in a bit of a sideways price range. As we can see, between support and resistance, we're simply just bouncing around relatively sideways. And so first of all, we could find a small amount of support at around 290 to 295, but really the next significant area of support to watch out for the price of XRP is sitting in between around $2.70 to $2.80. That is a major area of support to watch out for, where we've seen many crucial bounces from that area. And as for resistance to watch out for, we have a lot of resistance in this area on the price chart, as we can clearly see many rejections from this price range, sitting in between around $3.10 to $3.15. So in that area right there, expect a lot of resistance, a lot of struggle, and likely rejections. And if we were to see a breakout back above around 315 with confirmation, so candle closes above that level and holding above this, ideally as a new support, in that situation, the next major target, major point of resistance to watch out for is in between around 330 to 335. And as I always say, simply pay attention to what Bitcoin, the Bitcoin dominance, and other altcoins, etc., are currently doing to figure out what is likely going to happen for a lot of these altcoins, XRP included. So for example, if Bitcoin continues to play out the short-term bearish divergence, maybe for another day or two, just in the short term, then it's likely that could cause a little bit of short-term weakness for XRP while that is happening in the immediate short term. But then let's just say if Bitcoin maybe plays out some sort of short squeeze or another bullish move, maybe in a few days from now or closer towards a week from now as a likely scenario, that could also help the price of XRP as that's playing out for Bitcoin. So definitely pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing to figure out what is likely going to happen for a lot of these altcoins. But right now, XRP in particular, along with other altcoins, as I mentioned in this video, simply just trading in a bit of a sideways price range between support and resistance. And if we're taking a look at Chainlink on the daily time frame, it's a somewhat similar situation for Chainlink. We're kind of just bouncing around in a bit of a short-term sideways price range between this point of resistance and this point of support. And so technically, if we're looking at the longer term trends, the larger price structure, at least for now, we've not yet confirmed a massive bearish trend reversal. Technically, we are still within a larger bullish trend, despite the fact that we're clearly seeing a cool off or a larger pullback of some sort during this bullish trend, which is normal. We have seen that in the past, but I'd only start to flip more bearish again on the much larger trend, not just the short-term moves, but actually talking about much larger bearish trend. I'd only start flipping more bearish again on the larger trend if we see a confirmed break with candle closes below around $22, and especially if we fail to get back above that area, flipping it into new resistance, that would be significant bearish price structure pointing towards at least around $19 to $20, but quite possibly a larger bearish trend playing out for maybe a period of weeks, if not months, as a likely scenario if we actually confirm a break below $22 and fail to get back above that area. And so that is definitely a crucial point of support to watch out for, once again at approximately $22 and just above $22. And as for resistance for this sideways price range we're currently in, we have a lot of resistance at roughly $25 and slightly above $25, so around $25 to $25.20 acting as some key resistance. And if we break out above that area, expect a lot of resistance just under $27, really in between roughly $26.70 to $27, acting as strong resistance, as I've already been warning about for a long time, since actually before we rejected from it all the way back here. I've been warning about that area of resistance. And once again, if you want to trade any of these moves in the price of any crypto, like what I'm doing right now to easily profit in the crypto market, make sure to check out the exchanges. Links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links on the exchanges that I'm trading on right now. And if you want to actually know how you can take these trades for yourself to make a lot of easy and quick profits in the crypto market, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.